Well, I'm here working for Mercy Corps. I'm a agricultural livestock consultant, and I've been looking primarily at the animal movement route from Chveni to the summer grazing pastures in the South Caucasus. I'm also looking at any possibility of developing a wool market for the wool from all the sheep in Georgia. I really finished it, I kept it short, but I mean, I've been looking at the animal movement route and seeing what problems there are, what problems the shepherds have moving from winter pasture to summer pasture, with the loss of their resting and grazing areas, and also the lack of infrastructure along the route, such as watering points, where they have to cross busy main routes, such as Rustavi and other places. Well, I've looked at a lot of projects, especially in the small to medium-sized enterprises, and in particular in the dairy industry here in Georgia. And I've seen some very positive steps in the cheese making, and how these small companies are giving a good price to the small farmer for milk and producing the cheese. And there are many other positive attitudes that I'm seeing coming into the Georgian agriculture since I was here 4 years ago. Well, my principal job here obviously is the animal movement route, and that needs a lot of work to help farmers, because it is very, very necessary for them to move from winter pasture to summer pasture. There is no grass in the summer in Chveni, and they have to move to the high summer grazing. But along the route there are many problems, that the whole infrastructure, since there's been no government department looking after it since, I believe, 1961, many of the water points are broken, there is no water, and what is more worrying is the loss of the resting and grazing areas, because we're talking about almost 1 million head of livestock between sheep and cattle that are moving twice a year. I've seen figures that in 1961 there was almost 5,400 hectares of grazing land belonging to the animal movement route. Today that is sadly very much less. So these animals are moving along this route. There's no food for them. There's big conflict between local landowners, simply because the government have sold off the resting areas. Well, I think in the livestock sector there are some very important points, that they are paying a huge amount of land tax, which they don't seem to get any return back to agriculture for. It's particularly the small farmer, who are almost on what we would class as subsistence farming. They need help from the government. It's fine for the big farms to have big help and big area, but for the small to medium-sized farms there seems to be very little help. I mean, with the animal movement route for the shepherds, which is the biggest percentage terms of the numbers of livestock, they need to replace these rest areas and food areas along the route to help this annual migration, which is a particularly unique situation. I think it's one of the last places in the world where this happens, but no one, from what I can see in government, seems to care what happens about it. There's no animal welfare, and there's no help.